and Sean, breaking through the noise, serving real talk, the genuine choice. No pretense, no hidden schemes, just sports, passion, fueling dreams. From the field to the court, every play that's made. Real takes over fake debates. Turn it up, hear the honest sound. Unfiltered sports all year round. Discussions pure, no masquerade. Real takes over fake debates. Turn it up. Over fake debates. Real takes over fake debates. Real takes over fake debates.
And we are live. As we talk about Sean Webb, Real Takes Over Fake Debates. It is Monday, Sean. How are you feeling today, brother?
Hanging in there, SB. Happy Monday to you. Happy Monday to everyone out there. Thanks for joining us on Real Takes Over Fake Debates.
Yes,
whether you're listening on YouTube, Facebook. Well, you know what? We need to let the lady tell everybody where we at.
Real Takes Over Fake Debates has invaded the audio podcast world. Add Real Takes Over Fake Debates on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and iHeartMedia. Leave a 5-star review and comment below. New episodes every Monday and Friday.
Let the lady tell you. We always here. We always live on every platform. Now, Sean, I'm over to get a little voice a little raspy, getting over a cold, but I'm back at it. We got a lot to talk about because we got the NBA Finals going on. We got a lot of things going on in the NFL, and it might be a lot of NFL shakeup this offseason. So, no matter further ado, we just gotta go ahead and get right into it. But we gotta get into some NBA news first. When we get into this NBA news, because this could open up the door for the East being open, like we said. So Tatum's going to be out for a while, or Tatum being out for a while. The Celtics not in the way. Now the Celtics not in the way. Now another starting point guard for a team that was at the top of the East is going to be out for some time. Darius Garland of the Cleveland Cavaliers likely to miss the start of the season after toe surgery. So at least probably, I think from what the reports saying, he might be back like January, maybe.
Yeah, maybe January, maybe December, January. Yeah,
maybe December, January. So, how big of a hit would this be for the Cavs? Because I got a theory what's going to go on with him, but I'm gonna let you go first. Tell what you think about this.
So, I think the bigger hit for the Cavs is that they were and are, by all accounts, apparently interested in moving Darius Garland in a trade. You know, if you're a team that's trading for Darius Garland, certainly you're going to want to make sure, you know, whatever the toe issue is, that this is something that will correct it. It won't be a long-term issue if, you know, you're making a move for Darius Garland. So from that perspective, will it stop a trade? Maybe not, but I think it could very well make some teams say, hey, you know, is this a long-term issue? When you talk about, you know, athletes and their feet, you know, and are having foot problems, toes, and people say, oh, it's just a toe. Trust me, it matters.
It matters. Run up and down that court.
You know, it matters. All the cutting, all the moving, it matters. So it'll be interesting to see how teams that may be interested in acquiring Darius Garland will proceed, you know, with this news. But if you're Cleveland, obviously, you know, at this point with Cleveland, it's not about the regular season. You know, it's really not. This is a team that, you know, a lot of people believe could have gone on a run to the NBA Finals this year. Obviously, you know, had some injuries and lost to a Pacers team that was just better in that series. And so, you know, for the Cavs perspective, you know, you obviously want Garland healthy in the playoffs because, again, it's not about the regular season. So however you know, much time he needs to get healthy, that's all that really matters at the end of the day for the Cavs.
Yeah, for me, what I'm looking at with the Cavs situation is you are planning on trade Darius Garland. And it opened up my eyes. And I know I always try to, like, go back to my Chicago Bulls, But I'm only going back to my Chicago because it is a player who is available where teams who need a point guard, he's on a very favorable deal. And I know he had injury history, Alonzo Ball, but him on a $10 million deal, you could probably easily get that. And you could, I'm not saying trade Darius Garland for him, but you could probably trade somebody off the bench to the Bulls and give up like a second round pick or so, get Alonzo Ball to be your starting guard. Then maybe go trade Darius Garland to add better pieces, or maybe add maybe add Jared Allen, Darius Garland, maybe go big game hunt, go get a better piece. But I think mainly for the Cavaliers, and I'm here to understand why they want to get rid of Darius Garland. I just don't think you can have two small guards line up in the backcourt with Donovan Mitchell being your star guard. I do think they need a bigger guy. And honestly, Sean, who I think would be a perfect fit for Cleveland and manager, I don't know. I don't have the money right in front of me right now to say how the numbers work or what they got to do. But I think if Cleveland could find a way to acquire a Drew Holiday, I think that's a perfect type of guard you could put next to a Donovan Mitchell. Or if you want to, like I said, go for a cheaper route with the money to go get Alonzo Ball. I think that'd be perfect. And then for Darius Garland, his situation, how I'm looking at it for him, it's try your best to get healthy as quick as possible, or don't force your way back because of you might possibly get traded, but also you don't want to re-injure yourself too. So I'm not shocked either way, Sean. But also my question for you, what is a good asking price for Darius Garland? What do you think you could expect in return for Darius Garland? If you can, I'm thinking you got to go a PG, maybe a bigger PG in return.
I mean, I don't know if necessarily has to be a point guard. I think it's got to be certainly someone who, helps them. Maybe from my perspective, maybe the idea isn't that you're trying to get a player back for Darius Garland so much as you're trying to, because the big issue is that the Cavs are going to be a second April team next season as currently constructed. So that's really the problem. So that's why they're going to have conversations about Darius Garland and Jared Allen potentially. Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell are not in conversation. So let's not even get into that right now. But just because they're a second April team next season, that's why they got to have these conversations. What they can't do is finish the season next year as a second apron team. So it may be a move they make prior to the trade deadline or at the trade deadline that gets them out of that second apron. But for them, the primary thing, they got some pieces on their roster, right? If they said, hey, we're going to play, and I'm just throw out a scenario, we're going to start Max Strus in the backcourt with Donovan Mitchell. Again, Donovan Mitchell handles the ball so much. He's not a true point guard, but he handles the ball so much. Strus can handle the ball a little bit, but Strus is great as a catch and shoot guy.
Yes.
Particularly from three. You still got DeAndre Hunter, who you probably want to start next year, next to Mobley and whoever your center is, presumably Allen. So sometimes it's not even about what you're getting back. Sometimes it's just, hey, we've got to move this money and we can fill out our roster a little bit better because we don't have, 3 high salary guys, which again, that's what we got to kind of look at with this new CBA. It's going to be hard to have 3 guys at that high salary and field a competitive roster long term. So I think that's got to be part of Kobe Altman's and the Cavs thinking from my perspective.
And also, I was moving a little too fast or going into the show because we're ready to get into these topics. But salute, go James, and the guys that like, share, subscribe. Salute Sports PSP in the chat. Salute Sports PSP again. He dropped the super chat. He said, we're going to talk about this too. We got a Steelers topic that's going to be talked about. But he asked, should the Steelers have drafted Shedeur Sanders?
No.
Yeah, I say no to they. Clearly, they already had him out. who they had him out, who they was going to draft. So, no, PSP, no. They shouldn't have drafted him. But we got to go to more NBA stuff that's going on because Jason Kidd and the New York Knicks share interest in each other for the head coach vacancy. Obviously, just coming off Tom Thibodeau being fired, and obviously Tibbs got fired, made the Eastern Conference appearance. But only thing is weird to me, Sean, is that the Knicks want Jason Kidd, and Jason Kidd wants to go to the Knicks, but Jason Kidd is the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks.
Right.
It's interesting. I was wondering what would make Jason Kidd want to leave Dallas. Does the Luka Doncic trade have something to do with Jason Kidd possibly? Hey, I might take my talents to the Knicks. And does this prove, with him wanting to leave Dallas, that he did not know Luka Doncic was getting traded? Maybe that interview when he was looking mad actually got some fire to it. Some fuel to the fire, I mean.
Certainly, he played it well, right? He's got at the end of the day, he's an employee of the Dallas Mavericks. He's the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. He has one of 30 jobs as a head coach in the NBA. He's not going to slam the front office and the ownership in public. Now, what he might have said in private may have been a different conversation, but so there, I think two things to really focus on here. Number one, he's got 2 years left on his deal with the Mavs. So if the Knicks want to acquire Jason Kidd, it's going to take a trade for Jason Kidd. What the conversation will be is
trading coaches is crazy, by the way.
Well, but there's precedence for it. We've seen it. Remember Doc Rivers got traded from the Clippers from the Celtics to the Clippers. Pat Riley was essentially a trade to Miami from New York. Because the Knicks had to give up draft compensation to get Pat Riley from the Knicks. So there is precedence for it. It's not something you necessarily want to do, but obviously if this is your person and there's a mutual interest, then certainly, you want to do it. Now, the Mavs do not have to do this. That's the other side. They don't have to do it. They don't have to do anything. Jason Kidd is under contract for 2 more seasons with the Mavs. And there are worse places to be, but
that is true.
But when Jason Kidd got the Mavs head coaching job, why did he go to Dallas?
Luka Doncic,
because Luka was there. So I think the equation changes once you trade Luka.
Oh no, it definitely did change. It definitely did change.
I think it absolutely changes. Now, one thing with the Knicks, and I will say the Knicks, and for all the slamming of James Dolan, deservedly so, over the last 25 plus years, the one thing he has been willing to do is open his pocketbook.
Yes, he has.
And write a big check. So it's probably going to take a trade, and it's also going to take a pretty massive contract extension for Jason Kidd, where you put him, if not at the top of the league in terms of head coach salaries, he's got to be right there with Eric Spoelstra and Steve Kerr in terms of salary. So, it's going to be a conversation. Whether or not it happens remains to be seen. But I would definitely say once they traded Luka, all bets were off for the entire organization.
Yeah, I think all bets was 100% off when it comes to, because you traded my best player on my team after I just made an appearance to the finals. Yeah, I probably want to go ahead and move on to go to another situation. And also, it's New York. It's the mecca of basketball. It's certain teams and like different sports that if you win with this team because of how ravaged the fan base is or how prestige the franchise is or history-wise, that if you win there, you're a legend forever. Like the New York Knicks are in that category. When it comes to football, the Chicago Bears are in that category. Like teams like that where like their fan base is ravaged where they haven't really won anything, but the fan base stick by them. So like if you win one, you are a complete legend at all. Complete legend. If Kevin Durant goes to New York in 1 year and pull a Kawhi Leonard, he will probably get his jersey retired in the Knicks. Because that's how ravaged New York is for a championship. Caleb Williams, all he got to do is throw for 4,000 yards. And if he gets a Super Bowl, he will eat in Chicago forever for free. He would walk around like he the prince, the king of Chicago, crown and everything. Can't do nothing to him. So it's just like the Knicks. It holds a different weight when you win in certain places. That's it. It's either like the fan base loves the team that much, or the franchise have great prestige, so it means a lot. So I don't blame Jason Kidd for actually trying to go back to the Knicks, the New York market, and then, like you said, Dolan has been opening that pocketbook up for the team. So you go to a franchise where they pretty much already kind of set. You got Brunson, you got Cat, you got good defensive pieces. Jason Kidd is one of the smartest minds in basketball. Of course, he can make it work. Then there's the possibility you might add Kevin Durant. Yeah, you got to take that opportunity. I don't blame Jason Kidd at all. And then especially we don't really know what's Dallas' direction is, honestly. And then also, Sean, what's up with Kyrie Irving then? You think Kyrie Irving still go? They go get Kyrie Irving an extension, or you think Kyrie Irving might be gone soon?
Well, I mean, you got to look at this offseason. There's only one team with cap space, significant cap space, and that's Brooklyn. Kyrie's not going back to Brooklyn, obviously. So my guess is that the Mavs either work on an extension with Kyrie Irving, get a new contract for Kyrie Irving, or they work out a potential, sign and trade for Kyrie Irving. But I gotta gather that that's not really their plan. They want to keep Kyrie Irving. They feel like this team has a legit window to compete over the next couple of years and win a championship. Whether it happens or not remains to be seen, but that's what they believe. So, I don't see anything happening with Kyrie Irving. I think Kyrie Irving, when he's healthy next season, will be in a Dallas Mavericks uniform.
Now, Sean, we got to go to this NBA Finals talk. NBA Finals, Thunders versus Pacers. And when it comes to basketball, or NBA, I should say, it is never just about basketball. It always find a way to be something else going on off the court narrative. It was always that. So before we get to talk about the game, because the series is tied 1-1, let's go ahead and knock through all these narratives or complaints that we have been seeing that's been going on. Some of them I actually agree with. Let's go ahead and attack. The NBA Finals don't feel like the NBA Finals. And a lot of fans have been saying this. Perfect example. They said when they cut on the game, this mainly game one, I'm going to say. They tried to do a little something different in game two, but if we're going to start a game one, I've been seeing different tweets, videos, all this about this subject. Somebody legitimately said first, and I really sat and thought about this after this. He was like, if I go back and turn on this game, how can I tell the difference from this game than a regular season game? Game one. It wasn't no final stuff plastered everywhere. It was more, it was little, but it wasn't nothing that electrified the game. Like this is the finals, the season finale. Winner take all. This is your trophy game. People complained that the trophy wasn't on the court at all, but the YouTube TV logo was. People complained that it wasn't no intros, no NBA Finals type intros. I remember when LeBron and Cleveland made the NBA Finals against the Spurs, they had the trophy on the court. And everybody, the starting lineup got it. Like, they didn't have no superstar lineup announcement. They didn't have no pre-production, pre-fight video for the NBA Finals. Why didn't see the throwback of Reggie Miller and then Tyrese Halliburton both doing the choke? Why they not explaining the history of the Pacers franchise and how they got here and the things they went through to get to this point? How you not talk about how OKC was added to the league and how OKC became in the league? How they got 3 MVPs and can Sam Presti actually finally get the job done? Why are we not telling these stories on TV? This is, and you complain that small markets not getting no love. You got a whole story you can tell with these two teams meeting in the finals. Also, you could talk about how these two teams is the change of the new era, the new parity era, where you don't need a big three. Where you can talk about how the Thunder was homegrown. They made these 1 or 2 little trades, but they all was young. Then you got a team like the Indiana Pacers. They found a bunch of people that nobody loved. They was underachieving where they was at, and you brought them all together to build a championship caliber team. Why are we not talking about this? How is we not? This the finals. This is a championship fight, Sean. And then the last one, and I want to hear your opinion. People was complaining that they felt like the NBA in-season tournament was getting more love to the finals. You see the court change. You see the big old trophy on the court. They have different presentations for the in-season tournament. They go all in for the in-season tournament, but you gonna treat the finals like a regular season game. Now, when I thought I was gonna hear people say this, I thought people was gonna say it because of two small market teams. But people were saying it for those reasons, and I'm gonna have to agree with them. Sean, how you feel about this? Do the finals feel like the finals or not?
Well, I mean, I've been watching the NBA Finals for many years now. Mm-hmm. So the finals are gonna always feel like the finals to me because I know it's where the time of the year is near the end. So I'm not gonna get into my feelings about it. But let me say two quick things. Number one, for all of those out there who were excited for the new media rights deal and for Turner to lose broadcast rights to the NBA, the one thing you never worried about on Turner was the presentation of the game. ESPN has long had problems with the presentation of NBA basketball. We just don't talk about it because often of who's playing. So if LeBron's out there, if Steph's out there, we don't talk about it. But they've had presentation problems for a long time. Let's not fool ourselves with that. Their studio show sucks. Okay. And this ain't no slight to anybody. It sucks. And one of the reasons why it sucks is because the people they have on their studio show often are the people you see on their network all day long.
Yep. Yeah,
so
same 6 people.
It's the same old, I don't even want to get into that. But my point is that it's the same old people. It's like we just heard you say this 2 hours ago on NBA Today. We just heard you say this 2 hours before that on First Mistake. So that's part of the problem. Turner doesn't have that as an issue. They didn't have that as an issue. Those guys on inside, they're on inside. You might see them pop up on different platforms here and there, but inside the NBA is what they do. That's it. And it's not inside the NBA. It's perfect, but there's a reason why that show wins Emmys every single year. There's a reason why. All right, so let's get into that now. Now, in terms of the Larry O'Brien on the court, the reason why the Larry O'Brien isn't on the court is because it was an issue for the players. They were slipping on the trophy being on the court. So they decided not to put the logo, the Larry O'Brien on the court. And also remember one of the other issues, and I even think this came up during with the NBA Cup, was the half court line that you couldn't see it.
You could see it, yeah.
So, and that's a part of the game. There were like 3 or 4 half court violations last night, backcourt violations last night. So, you need to be able to see the half court line. But I think there's another thing that we need to talk about, SB, and what it is these networks pay a lot of money to broadcast these games. They are going to broadcast what they want to broadcast, how they want to broadcast it, largely. So if they can give Stephen Laude an extra 5 minutes to talk,
they're going to do it.
They're going to do that as opposed to player introductions.
Which is stupid to me.
Right. Because one of the big issues with ESPN is, even during the regular season, is games don't tip off on time. You say the game starts at 8:30. The tip off sometimes not till 8:45, 8:50, and that's the first game. And it's the first game or 7:30. So it's like that. That's but this has largely always been a problem with ESPN. And this is not me slamming ESPN. Obviously, ESPN, they're the big dog. I get it, but they aren't. There are other places that do it better.
Respectfully.
Turner does it better. Now it's not going to be on Turner. What's it going to be on Amazon? That remains to be seen. What's it going to be on NBC? That remains to be seen. So I caution people. I understand getting excited about the new because everybody gets excited about the new, but new does not always mean better. New just means new. So, let's see how this plays out. But as far as the feel and the look of the NBA Finals, I think it has to do with how it's being covered. I think it has to do a lot with how, in some ways, they aren't taking advantage of certain things. And again, YouTube TV is a huge sponsor for the NBA Finals on ABC. That's why their logo is going to be prominent. They pay for that.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be on there.
So can I make a suggestion?
Okay. What we suggest?
I suggest that the NBA creates specific courts just for the NBA Finals.
I'm down with that.
So at center court, it's not about the home team's logo or anything like that. It's literally an NBA Finals logo at midcourt. Or how about this? How about you put the actual NBA logo at midcourt? Kind of like the NFL does with the Super Bowl. Sometimes they'll have the NFL logo in the middle of the field. Sometimes they'll have the Super Bowl logo in the middle of the field. Usually they go with the Super Bowl logo. Just have the Finals logo. That's your court. Those courts go to both locations, and that's it.
I'm down with that. I would love if, like, they start doing every year like a fight, like Super Bowl have a Super Bowl logo, do a Finals logo, but obviously it's different with the NBA because the NFL is like one game. But I want the Finals logo in the middle, but keep the same team court they color the theme, of course, so they get some home court feel. But I'm down with that. I actually like that. That solves all the problems. So the court, it ain't too much. The trophy on the court, you got your Finals logo. Everybody knows it's the Finals, and if teams want to feel special, we can make it the color theme of the Finals logo your color if it makes you feel better. But I'm 100% down with that idea. I like that.
Yeah, and so I think that to me is a massive win-win for both sides. And then again, YouTube TV or Papa John's Pizza or Larry's Emporium, whoever's sponsoring the finals can put their logo on the court and be done with that. But the middle of the court is going to be the finals. It's just going to be the finals, and that's it.
And then, Sean, even in that with the technology, you have the only team that had a problem with this. I know somebody gonna be like, but remember they had the problem. It was when Milwaukee had the cream city jersey, the cream colored the jerseys. That was the only time you had a problem digitally. So digitally, they could have easily did something, which they tried to do in game 2. Let's talk about it. I just believe the cursive finals looked fine, but that tacky, cheesy trophy they put on the court was diabolically terrible. It was some of the worst laziness was shown. That was the main thing to me. I was like, bro, this is just lazy. You just see people complaining. You were just like, here you go. You see it's on the court. Like it wasn't like no effort. I feel like they literally went on Google, looked up Larry O'Brien trophy. You just took the first image and then take the background off and just threw it on the court. And I feel like they did it. It wasn't even like a night of thinking. I felt like they was going into the game. Oh man, we forgot to get the trophy. And I have worked with like production stuff, so I know how like quick and fast you got to be to add stuff, and I know how quick you can do stuff like that. Yeah, so I know for a fact, Sean, they did that last minute.
Right.
It looked like the last minute thing. And then when they seen, I guarantee they seen the backlash, people complaining, they went with the cursive finals logo. But did you like that the little finals trophy or the little finals logo on there? How you felt about it when you say?
I mean, you could tell it was digital. I mean, it was very clear it wasn't actually on the court. You could tell it was digital. And then, of course, again, people at the game, that's not what they see. So people in the stands aren't seeing that. So it's a different presentation from television to in person. Listen, I think I was talking with somebody about this the other day, SB, and I'm going to say this real quick. Sometimes when you're on certain platforms, those platforms are what they do. ESPN is a sports platform.
Yes.
That's what it is, a sports platform. It has not always been the greatest entertainment network. When you're on certain platforms like Turner and others, those are not sports networks. TNT is not a sports network. TNT is a network that broadcasts sports. They tend to have a greater understanding, I think, of entertainment value.
Yep.
But, and I know there are some people that may not agree with this, I don't think sports are entertainment, but I think games can be entertaining.
Okay,
So I don't. So because again, I know there's people that say there's a script. There's no script. Like it's it's two teams, two competitors basically battling out, going at it. I was watching the French Open this weekend on TNT. Shout out to Coco Gauff for winning the French Open, by the way. But the women's singles title. But it's about the competitors and how this network who broadcasted decides how they're ultimately going to show the game to the audience. The two people who are out there, or the two teams out there, they're not out there to entertain. They're out there to play a game.
They're trying to win
and try to win the game. So that their focus isn't necessarily on the entertainment. Their focus is on the game. How it's broadcast, that's the entertaining part, right? You go to a baseball game at a stadium, generally, and I tell you all the time, if you've never been to a live baseball game at a stadium, it is so much fun.
Yeah, way better than watching on TV.
Way better than watching on TV, but it's not just because of the game. It's the stuff that's going on in between innings. It's the stuff that's going on, the mascot races and all kinds of stuff that's going on. And, that's the entertainment value of being there in person that you're not going to get from television. So I don't know what the full answer is. Obviously, I'm one person, but I do believe that there does need to be, at least on some level, some conversations between the NBA and its broadcast partners about how we can better show our product to our audience, because the majority of our audience don't come to the stadiums. They don't come to the arenas. They're watching on televisions or on, their devices. How can we better present that to them? That's what really matters.
Yeah, I have to agree on that. Woo, knock my dog out. But Woo says since the NBA went to ESPN/ABC, they have had the 3 lowest rated NBA finals ever. Duncan and LeBron were involved in all 3, including 2007 versus each other. I think the production was better though from back then. Though I'm trying to think. Like I said, the introduction. I remember I brought up earlier. The introduction. They had a whole finals trophy on the court. Maybe that was just Cleveland doing that on their own. I don't know. But the introduction was way, way better. Now, if I go back to the production of was it a pre-video before the game to hype us up? That I don't 100% know. The cursive finals logo could go on that line in center court, both sides in the opposite team direction. I'm down for that. Like I need something on the court that says finals. When the in-season tournament happened, the court says NBA season, in-season tournament. It gives that vibe. I want the court to feel like the finals. I want the court to feel like the finals at all. I remember what team used to do this? It had to be the Lakers. I think this during Kobe's time. I remember they used to darken like the crowd and make the court like a theater set. I feel like I would have to go for something like that too. Like give me something. I'm still going to enjoy. I'm a basketball fan. I'm still going to enjoy and watch it all. But I'm saying this is the finale. This is it. Michael Jackson, do something.
Yeah, some arenas do. I know they do it at Crypto. I know they do it at the Casilla Center in Miami, where it is more like a theater type lighting and things. And that's great, again, whether you're in person or watching it on television. But I think sometimes, again, the greater issue is that we're talking about the NBA Finals. And again, ESPN, ABC Disney has the broadcast rights for the NBA Finals. After this particular finals is over, because I don't know if you can fix it during the series, there needs to be some real conversation between the NBA and ESPN, ABC about how these games are being broadcast to the greater markets and what the people are seeing on television that give it, as you say, that finals feel. What that looks like, again, remains to be seen. But the thing you can't do is you obviously can't put the players in danger. You don't want to put the players in danger.
No, you can't.
But there does need to be something. And again, that's why I believe the NBA should take some of the onus and say, hey, listen, we're in Oklahoma City, we're in Indiana. We're going to have a NBA Finals court in these two locations, and that's what you're going to see on the court. That's going to be the most prominent thing is the NBA Finals. Just like, again, the Super Bowl logo is the most prominent thing in the middle of the field at the Super Bowl. So it's not even a question of whether or not you're watching the Super Bowl. You see it in the middle of the field.
Yep. I have to agree with that. Let us know what you guys think about that. I want that. What John said, if that sold me, I'm good. Now, Sean, we got to talk about the next thing before we get into the football. And we got to talk, or we got to get into, not football, I'm sorry, get to talk about what we see so far in the series. I believe it's time to let go of the Jordan era and the 90s, and it's because I feel like it's ruining the NBA. Before we get into that point, I'm going to tell you the reason that made me think this way. J-Dub, the next Scottie Pippen. Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder, out of the blue, is now the next Scottie Pippen. And for me, why I have a problem with this comes into play is, why does everybody have to be compared to Jordan or anybody in the 90s? Everything got to be Jordan-esque. Everybody got to be the 90s this, 90s player, Reggie Miller this. You know what I'm saying? Any player, Scottie Pippen. Like, what about J-Dub is making him the next Scottie Pippen, besides that he's the second option next to a guy who's an MVP caliber player that's a gunner? It's no other reason why he could be compared to Scottie Pippen. Then also, why are you not using – we had multiple two-way players. We had great secondary players. You could compare them to any other player. Why y'all always compare players to this era only? You got the early 2000s. You got the 2010s. You got players even from the 80s. But now we got to go back right to that Bulls. The 90s Bulls, they cannot let this team go at all, Sean. But please enlighten me if it's something that J-Dub is the next Scottie Pippen. I don't see it.
Well, I don't want to say he's the next Scottie Pippen necessarily. I don't, again, that's a very, very high bar to reach. Scottie Pippen is one of the 50 and 75 greatest players in NBA history. Obviously, runaway Hall of Famer, things like that. Jalen Williams is a very good player. Again, when I look at his numbers,
nice.
He's incredibly nice. His numbers, comparative to peak Scottie. When I look at Scottie in like 91, 92, Scottie was 21, 8, and 7 in 91, 92, and obviously one of the best defenders in the league. So I get the comparisons. I think there is some truth to that. And when we talk about Shea, Shea is in a different conversation, but J-Dub is, he is an excellent player. And I think he's the right fit next to SGA as well as Chad. I think those three are their core guys that you're going to see them build this thing out around the next few years. So I get why there's the comparison. What you don't want to do, though, in the comparison is to, one, not appreciate Jalen Williams, but also to disrespect guys Scottie Pippen, because Scottie Pippen had a great career. Again, we just mentioned a Hall of Fame career. J-Dub's just getting started. So, but I think there are some similarities when you watch them play their two-way ability. They do have great offensive versatility. They play well. They can handle the ball. They can get you into your offense. They can, score when you need them to.
Score, yeah.
His overall floor game. I do think it is very comparable to Scottie Pippen, but he's not Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen is one of one. Jalen Williams is hopefully going to be one of one. Let's just enjoy what we're seeing from J-Dub as he his star continues to rise in Oklahoma City.
Wu said Bird, Magic, and Jordan just set the expectations so high for what they have done for the NBA, which which I ain't gonna lie. With that point, I think it's more the era too, because that was like the last bit of an era where people actually consume something as a human being instead of doing it through their phone and social media, where you have to actually like be there to see it, or you can't go upload your phone later and look at it or watch it at work. No, you got to go home and watch the game, or you got to make sure you always make it at home in time to watch the game. You can't miss nothing. But he said it's a blessing and a curse, like in wrestling with Andre Hogan and Rock and Austin. But even with wrestling, they appreciate the new people. Like they don't even compare to them like the people from Andre Hogan. They go Rock, they go like John Cena now. They go Randy Orton. Like they give the people that came before them. Like why I don't get no Tim Duncan, no Bruce Bowen, no T-Back comparisons, no Carmelo Anthony comparisons. Andre Karolinko, that's another great two-way player. Why we don't get no comparisons like that? Ron Artest. Why we don't get none of those comparisons? But no, Jordan S. They running that quick. Why y'all talking about all the field? Why ain't get no Tony Allen? Why Lou Dirt ain't get no Tony Allison comparison yet? That's all I'm saying. It's other players. It's over 1,000 players that play. You can compare, but I guarantee you they're gonna run right to this Jordan S. It's 90 Pippins. This can they be the next dynasty like the Bulls, like they other dynasties? That's all I'm saying. They run to the same one player, honestly. That's my only problem. Like it's other players you can compare players to. And that leads me to for this, Sean. The NBA meeting needs to let the 90s and MJ go. It's time. I know it was a running joke with that one guy. He was like TikTok, showing not real on TikTok, but I know you probably ran across a video because he went like super viral. Like, we done with the 90s. And it was like, call everybody trash garbage. Like, how he did it was wrong because it was just like trolling as a joke. But the essence of it, like being done with the 90s, is to an extent, I think we need to let it go because we holding players to a standard that's unrealistic. Okay, Ant-Man, perfect example. Just because he's dark skinned and flying in the air, now he's Michael Jordan's son, and he's the next coach thing. He's the next Michael Jordan. Then you really look at this kid age, right? I think Ant-Man's what, like 23 now? 23? I think they were like 23. This man already got 2 Western Conference Finals appearances, but we talking about this man like he's a failure because we doing unrealistic expectations comparing him to Michael Jordan. Oh, Michael Jordan had MVPs, led the league in scoring, but he ain't win like Ant-Man been winning. Oh, now Ant-Man ain't winning because now he ain't doing it. He ain't really Jordan. He don't want to be the face of the league. Unrealistic expectations because it is. Oh, Tatum been made to the finals, but he lost. He's a failure. You know, he don't look the same. That ain't Jordan. No, Jordan got there. He win. He ain't lose. Whole time, Jason Tatum has seen nothing but the Eastern Conference Finals since he been in the league. One of the most successful starts of any rookie that we have seen in a long time. But nobody talk about that because you're too busy comparing them to an era that's been 30 years ago, 25, 30 plus years ago. I was 93. This was a long time ago. Let this era go. It's okay to move on. We had other dynasties. We got Shaq and Kobe. We got the Spurs dynasty. We had teams that made the finals that was good, like the Nets before, the Pacers before. Why are not talking about this? We had the Warriors dynasty. We got other things to talk about, but y'all consistently go back and talk about the same dull-ass era. Dull butt era. And I'm a Bulls fan, and I'm tired of y'all talking about this era. It's not going to help the game grow. It's not going to help players grow because you comparing them to unrealistic expectations during that time. And don't let me get to talk about how the award system and voting was during that time because a lot of things were shaky. So a lot of players got a lot of boost on awards, but that's a different conversation for a different day, Sean. I just think we need to get back to enjoying the game and praising the game. When criticism is needed, you can criticize the game, but praise the game and stop comparing it to one era and one team. That's the problem that I have. And I think we need, once they let it go, Jordan era can get praised because now Jordan era is getting tarnished more because people tired of it. But once they praise, I think the game can grow. That's all I ask. I think it's just time to let it go.
So can I say something real quick, SB? Mm-hmm. So there are people who don't believe there are any dynasties post the Bulls.
Which is stupid.
But again, the reason why, before you say that, the reason why SB, is because there was, when you talk about a dynasty, an expectation of longevity.
Mm-hmm.
So if your run is 3 or 4 years, that's not for many people longevity.
Okay.
Right. So that's why I think people will go back to the Bulls of the 90s in particular, because they are the last, quote, dynasty with an extreme longevity. Now, the Spurs is a different conversation.
I was saying Spurs is my first argument. The Spurs and the Kobe Lakers. My first argument.
But again, the problem with that is that those are different iterations of teams. You're talking about, one guy being tied to those teams in particular. And again, I don't want to get in this because we could be here all night talking about this. What I'm saying is that just people have a different view of what a dynasty may be. So I'm not going to say one person's view of a dynasty is wrong compared it to another. My whole thing is just keep the same energy. That's all. Keep the same energy. The reason why this exists today is because in the 90s, and I'm just using the 90s as an example, sports talk and sports media was not what it is today. The moment we switched to the debate model fully as sports media and sports media coverage is why this has become an issue. And it ties to two people in particular, Skip Baseless and Stephen Laude. Those two, they're the reason why a lot of the stuff exists today as it does. I'm not mad with those two guys for making the careers that they've made. I'm not a hater on any level. What I hate is that we've gone so far away that we can't even have real objective back and forth about errors. And again, you notice, SB, I don't do the error comparison. I don't get into that because there's no way for me to tell. That's why I do the tiers. That's why I say, hey, listen, that team was great. That team had a great run. If you ask me about the longevity of dynasty, I do think it matters. In the grand conversation when you're talking about all-time dynasties. But I won't take away what a team did in a short, finite period of time because the NBA is different, particularly with player movement and all of those different things. So it's going to be different.
Right.
What I think people need to let go, and what people need to let go is just, as you said, SB, let's figure out how to just enjoy the game. Let's figure out how to understand the game, because many of these people who do this can't talk basketball. They can talk narratives, but they can't talk basketball. They can't break down a play. They can't break down a situation and say, why is this team doing this in this particular situation? Why is that team doing that in that particular situation? They can't do it. They have no ability to do it. It's all literally just, one person failed in the clutch. That's why they lost.
Yeah, he ain't clutch. The whole time, man, I hit like 3-4 shots before then.
Right. It's, this whole thing of, this one player had a bad game and that's why their team lost. Well, no, there's a lot more that goes into it. That didn't help. That's a part. But that's not the sum total of why they lost. So, but many people don't understand how to have those conversations and don't understand, again, know the game enough to say, well, no, this is why they lost, right? And, and so that is really what it is. To me, the biggest crime is that someone like Tim Legler, who probably breaks down basketball as well as anyone, isn't on more platforms doing that and getting the same number of clicks that Stephen Laude gets yelling back and forth with Thanon on Third Take.
And people don't care.
Right, because that's not what it's about. That's boring. It's boring to say, well, why did they run this particular action at this time? Why didn't this action work at this particular time? What did this team do against this action that took away that first action? So why couldn't they get to their secondary action? What is horns? What is inverted horns? So those are things that a lot of people can't break down and talk about. So they go to, well, that's why Jordan was great.
That's it. And they just use Jordan. Don't even explain Jordan is great. But what you mean Jordan is great? 6-0. Now, what does that mean? How do you get to this point? What did the Bulls do? What did the Bulls change? What did Jordan change about his game? What they do to the system? How did they consistently stay a dynasty? What actions Phil Jackson? What tell me that. Don't just tell me 6-0.
Right. And again, to Woodage's point, right? Because it's a great point. We've never had a GOAT argument on this podcast, and we never will. Because at the end of the day, there are no universal GOATs. Because often who your GOAT is the person that made you feel a certain way. Just like your favorite music is often from the time when you first started getting some. True. So that's why I don't get it. That's why you'll never hear me get into it, because it's like it's no point. There's no point.
Everybody go different. It don't matter.
Right. So I don't believe in universal GOATs. And again, a lot of times when we talk about GOATs, we talk about them in terms of a league. Why don't you talk about them in terms of their entire sports career? Not just when they were in a specific league.
And then, Sean, what I don't understand is, like, speaking of the GOAT debate argument, as main people, like you said, first mistake, first take, whatever, they are the main people who say this. And then if this is the case, why you keep bringing this player name up? If you tell me it's nothing that nobody can do to be greater than Jordan to you, why every other second you always bring up Jordan in? Jordan should never be a conversation then. He's just an undisputed GOAT. So why is you calling Ant-Man the next Jordan S if he the undisputed GOAT? There's nothing nobody can do. Jordan name should never be brought up again. But no, we can't talk about the game because, Sean, I can't tell you why SGA missed that shot or why what the Pacers did to adjust to make their game one comeback. Or I can't tell you the adjustments the Thunder made by switching different players in the lineup and then switching their defense up to make it harder for the Pacers to actually keep the league up to win the game too. I can't tell you that. So, but I can tell you he's Jordan that stuff.
Yeah. And as someone eloquently put some time ago, in some cultures, goats get cooked and eaten. So maybe you don't want to be a goat.
No, you don't be. But let's talk about a little bit basketball too, because the series is tied 1-1. What was your reaction to game one, and then game two with the Thunder bounce back for one? Because game one definitely set the tone for the final, so I don't want to hear nobody complaining like the final's going to be dull. I have been highly entertained by both, even though the second game was kind of like more of a blow. The Thunder put BTA on the Pacers this time, but I've been highly entertained by this final so far.
Yeah, I think this finals, when we did our preview, I mentioned, SB, this finals is probably going to be more entertaining and closer than a lot of people thought. I think game one is always hard in the finals because game one, particularly if you got two teams that have never been there, it's a different atmosphere, the nerves, in game one, the two things that stood out to me in game one, the first half, the Pacers turning the ball over. They had 19 turnovers in the first half. And the thing that when I was watching, I said, there was two things that I was watching. I said, the Thunder are not taking advantage of all these turnovers.
Yeah,
they're not scoring off all these turnovers. They had like 9
a 10-point lead.
They had like 9 points off of 19 turnovers. That's not a good ratio if you're forcing that many turnovers. The second thing was SGA. SGA in the first half of game one, he had 19 points, but he had taken 18 shots.
Very
uncharacteristic. And he had only been to the free throw line twice. So what that told me, for me, was, hey, this series is a little more balanced, and OKC has got to find more offensive balance that they didn't necessarily have in the first half or in the second half of game one. And the Pacers found more offensive balance in game one and were able to stay engaged. Game two, I think the Pacers, OKC came out. They made great adjustments. They played with a better aggression defensively. It wasn't that they were necessarily forcing turnovers, but they were doing a better job in game two. I think of pushing tempo. They had greater spacing offensively. They had a little more movement. You could tell they were much more intentional in trying to get Chet involved early in game 2. That I thought was a big difference, a difference maker. And I will say the one thing I think I don't want to browbeat the point. I think the two things. If I'm the Pacers, obviously, when you're the road team and you don't have home court advantage, you want to try to get at least one on the road. That's the idea. They did their job. Now they got to go back and hold home court. But I was looking at a couple things this morning, and I said, I think the Pacers are going to have to do two things if they really want to make this a series. Number one, they're gonna get up more 3-point shots. The Thunder have shown they are really, really focused on trying to keep the Pacers out of the paint as much as possible. So the Pacers are going to have to shoot the three. Now, when the Pacers shoot threes, generally is because the ball has touched the paint in some sort of way, whether it's Halliburton drive, Siakam on the drive, Nembhard on the drive. It's usually because the ball is touching the paint. So I think they're going to have to shoot more threes. And then the second thing is I know that, again, what part of what got the Pacers here was their depth and using their bench quite a bit. But when they're up in this series and they're up in games and they're in games, and when I'm saying up, and not by a lot, obviously, but when they're up, it's the Halliburton minutes and the Miles Turner minutes. So I think they got to find more minutes for those two going back to Indiana. And not saying you got to completely shorten the rotation, but I think I'm going to shorten their breaks. Halliburton can't sit for 5 or 6 minutes. Halliburton may really sit for 3 or 4 minutes. Miles Turner, same thing, because those two, when I was watching the replay, those two to me are what is going to give Indiana a chance in this series against Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Dog being a pain in the butt barking. Well, I'm not trying to play right now. But now for me, what I've seen with both series, game one, obviously it's definitely a fill-out game, and I think the Indiana Pacers did a great job at trying to take – that's the best game for them to get because the OKC Thunder defense is outstanding. And obviously you give them time to adjust and learn what you're doing on offense. That definitely will make a difference. So obviously the game one was outstanding. Pacers did what they normally do. The Thunder, which I think they did learn a little bit better in the second game, but there's no way the Pacers should not have lost by 30 points during that first game. You got 20 turnovers pretty much in the first half. You got to take advantage of those turnovers and score. And what I did like with what Rick Carlisle did, when he understood the pressure and how they was pressuring Tyrese Halliburton, he took the ball out of Tyrese Halliburton's hand and made him play off ball. I thought that was outstanding. That was smart because then now it's like you left Nembhard, and SGA still gonna guard Nembhard, and then they were just running their actions that they normally were doing, but that was Tyrese Halliburton being off the ball. And then they was either finding better ways to get Tyrese Halliburton in the spots to get him open, him being off the ball, instead of him going up the court and embodying them. Then I go in game two. When you look at game two situation, I love the way the Thunder adjusted it too. Obviously, with the Aaron Wiggins giving him minutes, and that's one thing you got to always be prepared for with this team. The Thunder team is deep, but for him to be prepared to play, it came in. That was definitely a difference maker. I don't think the Pacers were prepared for that, and that's also that happens sometimes in playoff series. You get unsung heroes from time to time that come out the bench, but also I do think that the Thunder's defense was way better, and they actually controlled the game more this time. They didn't get Indiana a chance to even try to go on a run and get back in that flow because you know how the Pacers is. They live by their name. They're going to try to pace the game. I think OKC did a great job of maintaining control of the game for me from what I've seen from this game. I think, though, with these two games being tied in the series – it's a little. I think I said when we did our predictions, I believe I said I had OKC in 6. I believe because a lot of people had OKC in 5. I definitely see this series going 6 or 7. I think the Pacers showing they're just not going to be just a walk in the park over. But my man said, like I always move, I always trust defense over anything. I'm still setting on my pick, but I'm happy. But just don't be surprised if it goes 7. But this definitely goes 6. I think game 3 is the biggest game of the series. Right here. I definitely do. I think this game 3 because if the Thunder come in and win, it sets the tone for Indiana during that next game. Because now it's like, if the Thunder beat you, you're going to be down 2 times in a row. You're going to be down 3-1 going back to OKC, and that's going to be bad. Then if the Pacers come and win, that set the pressure on Thunder for Game 4. Where it's like Thunder gotta be a must win for the Thunder that Game 4, because you don't want to go back down home down 3-1. That's going to be hard for anybody. So I think whoever wins this next game will set the tone of the series and have the advantage, and that will put the pressure on the next team in Game 4. So as I said, Game 3, I think if I'm the Pacers, the Pacers got to win this one. I can see the Thunder bouncing back. I can't really see the Thunder losing 2 in a row. But I think for the Pacers, you got to come home, set the tone. This is a must-win.
I think I would just want to add to that real quick, SB. In this playoffs, the Pacers' big games where they struggle have largely been Game 3 at home, but they were usually coming off wins in Game 2. Again, in the Cleveland series on the road, and then in the New York series on the road, obviously coming off of a loss. The 2 things I'm going to be looking for is, and again, when we talk about Tyrese Halliburton, it's not about his aggressiveness to score. It's about his aggressiveness to make the right play. In the first half of both games, he wasn't necessarily, particularly Game 2, he wasn't aggressive enough trying to play make for me and trying to make the right play, because that's who he is. Whether he scores or, again, makes the right pass or makes the hockey assist or whatever, it's his aggression, I think, is going to matter in the first half. What the Pacers can't continue to do is keep getting in these holes, because the Thunder are just too good. Yes. And to your point, they're a hard team to beat 2 games in a row. So if I'm the Pacers, I'm treating Game 3 like a must win. Game 3 for me is an absolute must win, because, again, you got home court, but also if you can give yourself a chance to win Game 4 at home after winning Game 3, you want to go back to you're going back to Oklahoma City regardless, but you want to go back to OKC up 3-1 if at all possible. You go back to OKC 2-2, the series is probably over.
And they better be happy they changed that rule. I didn't understand how this rule was like in play, because I'm like, technically the team with the second seed in the finals had the advantage. Remember, they used to do 2-3-2. So it's like, if you a road team, you get 1, you got 3 straight games at the crib, you got the advantage. Because I know they think like you got games 6 and 7 at home, but nah, I'm sorry, I'd rather be that, because all I gotta do is win 1 at your crib, game 1 and 2. We got 3 straight games in my crib. Oh yeah, we probably gonna get that series. Now, Sean, we got to go to NFL. Also, you still got Thunder in 6, right? You still got Thunder in 6?
Yeah, I still have Thunder in 6.
Okay, cool. We got to play a little quick NFL stories. NFL offseason shake up. Is either a move has happened or a situation going on where a move could possibly happen. And that's it. So we're going to go to it. First up on the NFL offseason shakeup, he has finally put the pen in the pad. Aaron Rodgers is signed a 1-year deal with the Steelers. How you grading this move and what you think about it?
Meh.
I can say nah, but also I feel like it's going to end up kind of bad for the Steelers, because we all knew Aaron Rodgers was already with the Steelers, but he waited to sign so he could skip over all the extra stuff that came from like the training camp and all prepared. That show bad leadership to me, that you ain't really been with the team. So I definitely get it as a man too. You get a C- off the name value alone, but it's nothing special going to happen. Nothing special going to happen. Next up, Texans signed Nick Chubb to a 1-year deal worth up to $5 million. How you feel about this one?
Meh.
Man, Nick Chubb.
But no, the issue is not Nick Chubb. The issue is their offensive line.
Oh, I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah, so I still have major concerns about their offensive line. I know last year they said, it was some things changed in terms of the scheme, and they got a new offensive coordinator, presumably a new offense. I don't get overly wrapped up in the name. I'm looking at what's around them. And with a running back, the first thing I'm going to look at is the offensive line. And, he's not going there to be the man. Obviously, Joe Mixon is their starter, but certainly he gives them a change of pace. I think they want to be a team that does, play ball control. And obviously, if you can do that with a combination of Mixon and Chubb and
nice.
Damian Harris, certainly that's where they want to be. But it's an okay move. I just don't. I think the Texans are still the best team in the AFC South without question. I just don't know if this move puts them anywhere closer to the Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo conversation, and that's why I'm like, it's a solid move, but I'm not like, oh yeah, this is definitely it. There's a reason why Nick Chubb was available until for as long as he was,
which is crazy, by the way.
Not really.
Yeah, they don't value running backs, man, no more. But next up on the list, the Green Bay Packers have released star cornerback Jair Alexander. Wes, how you think about this move? Where the shakeup coming for Jair? Where he gonna be?
Not
should he want to go?
Not a surprise this move happened. A couple things. One, he hadn't been healthy for some time. They're paying him a lot of money. I think they were trying to work out a new contract with him, commensurate to how much he plays, and maybe they would have gave him an opportunity to earn some of the money back, through bonuses and things of that nature. That's it. Not surprised at all that this move happened. They did go out and sign Nate Hobbs in free agency to a 4-year, $48 million deal. And they do like Keyshawn Nixon, who they drafted. Javon Bullard, who I think is going to be their nickel. They're going to be solid at corner. They got arguably the best safety in the league in Xavier McKinney, back there. So they're going to be fine. Where does he end up? I think it's a matter of what is he looking for. It's probably not going to be a long-term deal. It's probably got to be like a 1-year deal, very incentive-based if you want to go somewhere with a chance to win. The Eagles come to mind immediately because they did, lose Darius Slay in free agency. So the Eagles come to mind. Certainly there's probably a couple other things I could think of. Maybe the Falcons. They've been trying to get that corner on the other side of AJ Terrell. So, they could be a team to watch out for. The Rams could be another team, but again, I think he's going to have some suitors, but I don't think it's going to be for a lot of money. I think teams are worried about him staying healthy.
I'm going to say the next story. But what I think about it too is it's crazy. What about the Dolphins, Sean? Because the next one up we got on this list too is Jalen Ramsey did not attend Dolphins mandatory minicamp. Is it time for a shakeup? Is he getting traded?
Yeah, I think he's going to get traded eventually. Again, the question is where, and the question is wherever he gets traded, what are they going to ask him to do? Because I think Jalen Ramsey is probably, if not this season, next season is probably a safety in today's NFL who can come down and play, some corner from time to time. But I think at this point, they're ready to move on. I know there was some talk about potentially trading him back to the Rams. I don't know if that's going to happen now, but I
think if you want to extend his career, though, I think he needs to go play safe. If he try to play corner like that, I think he only got 1 to 2 more years max. But if he try to play safety, I can see him with a play in at least a good solid 3-4.
Yeah.
So I think that, but if, like I said, depends on what position you want to play. But if my defense is solid and just need maybe like that one more dynamic player, I'm definitely going to go get Anthony Richardson. I mean, not Anthony Richardson. Jalen Ramsey. Speaking of Anthony Richardson, he's missed minicamp due to a shoulder injury. Is it time for the Colts to pull the plug on Anthony Richardson, the experiment that is him? Because it is some quarterbacks coming back next season.
Not at all. Not at all. If you're the Colts, you spent the 4th pick on Anthony Richardson. The first 2 years haven't been great, largely because of some inconsistencies, but more because of injury. So when you look at the fact that he's only played really 1 season of NFL football in 2 years, it's too soon to pull the plug. Now, again, they did
Zion-like.
Yeah, almost. I do think, Daniel Jones obviously being there gives them a guy who can start and can play for them, they think. But I think their whole thing is they need Anthony Richardson to be healthy first. And again, they just said mini camp. We're not in training camp yet. Will he be healthy enough for training camp to go out and to compete with Daniel Jones? Now, my belief is if it's a tie between him and Daniel Jones in training camp, Anthony Richardson is going to be the starter. Okay. But if Daniel Jones completely outplays him, then certainly Daniel Jones is going to be their starter until Daniel Jones does what Daniel Jones does, which is show you he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL, and you got to turn to Anthony Richardson anyway. So I think it's just a matter of getting healthy, but it's way too soon to pull the plug. It's only been 2 years. I know this is crazy, and we live in this microwave, needed 3 minutes or less, but it's only been 2 years. We got to see if when he's healthy, and he's got a chance when he's healthy and playing with some consistency what he can do.
We can see, but he might need a water break. They gonna hold that against that man forever. Boy, quarterbacks don't take water break. Last story of the day, Sean. 2-time Olympic boxer champion Vasily, I hope it says his first name right, Lomachenko has announced his retirement from the sport at the age of 37. Are you shocked to hear this news? What's your reaction to this?
Not surprised, that he hadn't fought in over a year. I know there was some talk about him potentially trying to fight Tank Davis over the last year, but that never came to fruition. Obviously, he's 37. It was really interesting because Lomachenko, for those of y'all don't know, Lomachenko's a beast. Like he was a beast.
Nice.
He was nice, but didn't have a long professional career because he only turned pro in like 2013. So he only fought professionally for like 10 years, a little over 10 years. But he was a unique talent. Certainly, hate to see him walk away, but that said, you rather him walk away than be pushed away from the sport. And so shout out to him. But, again, when you talk about one of the best pound for pound fighters, particularly that weight at 137, Lomachenko is right there. He was like that. He was like that. I mean, he did lose to Haney, which again was a little bit of a controversial fight.
Yeah, lose is a strong word, but
it was a controversial fight. I'm just say that.
Okay.
Okay. And then he lost to Teofimo, Lopez, of course. But so when you think about his career again, it's just very short. He does not have this long career, but when he got in the ring, he handled business for the most part. So.
Yeah, Lomachenko definitely handled business when he did box. That Haney fight, we ain't gonna talk about that. But one thing I want to say though about this era of fighters or just era of athletes, one, obviously they're making way more money than fights back then. Before I say this, so I know somebody's gonna try to say that's the reason why. It's understandable. But a lot of these fighters, majority of these fighters know when to walk away and care about their health and their life after boxing or life after any sport. I actually commend them because it's hard for a lot of people to walk away. It's either from bad decisions or they keep on to fight the sport because they think they still got it and end up having health problems at the end. So I love to see that a lot of these athletes are learning to walk away early. I don't really got the love for it, so I ain't doing it for the paycheck. I'm good. I ain't gamble all my money away with whatever problem, so I don't have to just fight just to be fighting. I don't really love it. I ain't risking my health at no point in time just to be out here doing something. So I like this for this era athlete. All right, Sean. I think this is 68 now, right?
I think it's 69.
69. Okay, what you got for this? Yeah.
Is it 60? Is it 60? It may be 68.
I think it might be 68. I think 68. What you got? I pick it Dennis Rodman for 69 because that's not what you wanted.
I'm 68. I'm going with Will Shields. Hall of Fame guard for the Chiefs. Long time. One of the best guards ever, by the way. Will Shields.
Oh, no. Okay. Nobody worried that. Let me see. 68. Let's see MLB. What's MLB we got? Who?
I think did Jabba Chamberlain wear 68? I'm trying to remember. Did Jabba Chamberlain wear 68?
Yeah, I don't got nobody for 68. I'm not seeing nobody that I want to pick. You took Shields. It's tough. I'm have to go Will Shields too, then. Yeah, I will go Will Shields. Will Shields.
Yeah. Oh, you got Kevin Mawai is another one.
Oh, okay, but that's okay. That's a good
Kevin
one.
Mawai, yeah, long term center, yeah.
Yeah, but appreciate you guys. It's been another episode of Real Takes on Face to Base with SB and Sean, and we will see you guys on the next one. Peace out.
Real takes.